Imagine a world where survival isn't just a choice, it's a brutal daily gamble. Picture yourself standing on a frozen plain, the wind slicing through your skin, knowing that one wrong step could mean death. Not from a saber-toothed cat or a towering cave bear, but from something far more terrifying, another human. Not a stranger, not an enemy tribe, but someone who looks like you, thinks like you, and might just see you as prey. This isn't a dystopian movie. This is the world of Homo Heidelbergensis, our ancient ancestor who walked the earth 700,000 years ago, a species so pivotal, so contradictory, that they might just hold the key to why we humans are the way we are today, capable of incredible love, yet haunted by a shadow of violence. Hi, I'm Mike, and welcome to Prehistoric Period, where we dive deep into the stories that shaped us. Today, we're not just talking about fossils or old bones. We're unraveling a mystery about who we are at our core. Why do we build communities yet wage wars? Why do we care for the weak yet sometimes turn on each other? The answers lie with Homo Heidelbergensis, a species that wasn't just a stepping stone in our evolution. They were the architects of what it means to be human. So grab a coffee, settle in, and let's travel back to a time when survival meant facing not just the wild, but the darkness within. Hit that subscribe button and let's get started. It's 700,000 years ago. The Earth is a savage place. Glaciers creep across Europe, locking the land in ice. In Africa, droughts turn rivers into dust. Food is scarce and danger lurks everywhere. Massive hyenas, lions bigger than anything alive today, and bears that could crush a skull with one swipe. Into this world steps Homo Heidelbergensis, a species that doesn't just survive this chaos, they thrive in it. Physically, they're impressive. Think broad shoulders, thick bones, and height similar to ours, about 5'9" on average. Their skulls house brains almost as big as ours, around 200 to 300 cubic centimeters compared to our 350. That's a big deal. It means they weren't just brawny, they were brainy. They didn't stumble through life on instinct alone. They planned, they strategized, they created. But who were they really? Scientists believe Homo heidelbergensis was the last common ancestor of us, Homo sapiens, and our cousins, the Neanderthals, and possibly the Denisovans. They roamed from the savannas of Africa to the forests of Europe and the steppes of Western Asia, adapting to climates that would make most modern humans give up. They weren't just survivors, they were innovators. They crafted tools, built shelters, and mastered fire. But here's where it gets wild. They didn't just shape their environment, they shaped us. Every time you feel a surge of compassion, every time you argue with someone, every time you work together on a project, you're echoing behaviors that Homo heidelbergensis might have been the first to refine. They weren't just another species in the human family tree. They were the bridge between raw instinct and the complex, messy, beautiful thing we call humanity. So why should we care about a bunch of ancient bones? Because their story isn't just about the past, it's about us. Their triumphs, their struggles, their contradictions are still in our DNA, our societies, our conflicts. Let's dive deeper into what made them so special and so unsettling. To understand Homo heidelbergensis, you have to picture their world. It wasn't a cozy place. In Africa, they dodged giant crocodiles and saber-toothed cats like Homo therium. In Europe, they faced cave lions and short-faced bears that stood over 10 feet tall. Even the weather was a killer. Glaciations could bury entire landscapes in ice, while African droughts turned fertile plains into deserts. Food, water, shelter. These were luxuries, not guarantees. Yet Homo heidelbergensis didn't just scrape by. They were the ultimate survivalists. Let's talk about their toolkit. In Schöningen, Germany, archaeologists found wooden spears dating back 300,000 years. These weren't crude sticks, they were engineered. Each spear was carefully carved from spruce, with the center of gravity perfectly balanced for throwing. Imagine the skill it took to design a weapon like that without modern tools. It's like they were the prehistoric equivalent of aerospace engineers. In Ethiopia, they crafted stone-tipped spears 280,000 years ago, long before Homo sapiens showed up. These tools required not just muscle, but foresight. You had to select the right stone, shape it, and bind it to a shaft. That's not instinct, that's planning. And in Tanzania's Olduvai Gorge, they made tools from animal bones showing they could repurpose materials with purpose. This wasn't random survival. This was technology. But tools were only part of the story. Homo Heidelbergensis lived in groups probably 15 to 30 people, moving together like a tight-knit family. They hunted in teams, shared food, and protected each other. Sites like Boxgrove in England show they returned to the same spots over generations, maybe to trade tools or meet other groups. Think of it as the prehistoric version of a town square, a place where stories, skills, and maybe even laughter were shared. Here's where my analysis comes in. Their ability to cooperate wasn't just practical, it was revolutionary. Modern humans take teamwork for granted, but for Homo Heidelbergensis, it was a game changer. Living in groups meant they could tackle bigger prey like mammoths or bison, which no lone hunter could bring down. It meant they could care for the injured, teach their kids, and pass down knowledge. This wasn't just survival, it was the birth of culture. But let's not romanticize it. Their world was brutal, and cooperation came with a dark side. When you live so closely with others, tensions flare. Resources run low, rivalries spark. And that's where the story of Homo Heidelbergensis takes a chilling turn. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, or rather the fractured skull in the cave. Homo Heidelbergensis wasn't just fighting off predators, they were fighting each other. And not just fighting, there's evidence they might have been hunting their own kind. In Atapuerca, Spain, there's a site called Cima de los Huesos, the Pit of Bones. It's not your typical archaeological dig. It's a mass grave, a deep dark shaft where over 7,000 human bone fragments from at least 28 Homo Heidelbergensis individuals were found. No signs of burial rituals, no offerings, just bones tossed into the abyss. Among them is a skull called Cranium 17 with 2 deliberate fractures. Not one blow, but 2, as if the attacker wanted to make sure the victim was gone. This wasn't an accident, this was murder. Then there's the Bodo cranium from Ethiopia, a 600,000-year-old fossil with precise cut marks around the face and jaw. These weren't random scratches, they were systematic, made with stone tools, as if someone was carefully stripping the flesh. Why some say it was a funeral rite, a way to honor the dead. Others aren't so sure. The lack of animal bones at the site raises a grim question. Was this cannibalism? Not out of desperation, but something else, ritual, punishment, or power. And it's not just these sites. In northern Kenya, a 1.45 million-year-old shin bone shows similar cut marks, hinting that this behavior might predate Homo Heidelbergensis. The pattern is clear. Our ancestors weren't just victims of their world, they were predators too. But why would they do this? Human flesh isn't exactly a high-calorie meal compared to a mammoth or a bison. If it wasn't about survival, what was it about? This wasn't just about food, it was about control. In a world where resources were scarce, eliminating rivals or asserting dominance over another group could mean the difference between life and death. Maybe these acts were warnings, a message carved in bone. This is our territory, or maybe they were rituals, a way to bind a group together through shared gruesome acts. Think about it, even today, humans use symbols and rituals to define us versus them. Could Homo Heidelbergensis have been the first to draw that line in blood? This is heavy stuff. It's tempting to think of our ancestors as noble survivors, but the truth is messier. They were capable of incredible things, building tools, caring for each other, but they also carried a darkness. And that duality, that tension between creation and destruction, is what makes their story so human. The story of Homo Heidelbergensis isn't just about dusty bones, it's about behaviors we still see today. Let me share a couple of examples to show how their legacy lives on. At Cima de los Huesos, archaeologists found the remains of an individual with a severe pelvic deformity. This person couldn't walk, couldn't hunt, couldn't contribute to the group's survival. Yet they lived for years. Someone fed them, carried them, protected them. That's not just kindness, that's sacrifice. It reminds me of a modern story I came across recently. In a small village in rural India, a man named Ram cared for his disabled brother Sanjay for decades. Sanjay couldn't walk or work, but Ram carried him to the fields every day, sharing his meager earnings to keep him alive. Why? Because, as Ram put it, he's my brother, that's enough. That's the same spark of empathy we see in Homo Heidelbergensis, a willingness to put others before yourself even when it's hard. The violence of Homo Heidelbergensis has echoes in our world too. Think about gang conflicts in urban neighborhoods. In cities like Chicago, rival groups fight over territory, streets, corners, resources, not unlike the way Homo Heidelbergensis might have clashed over rivers or hunting grounds. I read about a young man named Marcus, caught in a cycle of retaliatory violence. His cousin was killed in a drive-by, and the pressure to settle the score was overwhelming. Marcus didn't want to fight, but the group dynamic, loyalty, revenge, survival pulled him in. It's a tragic parallel to the fractured skulls of Atapuerca. The tools have changed, but the instincts, they're still there. These stories show that Homo Heidelbergensis isn't just a history lesson, they're a mirror. Their compassion and their violence aren't relics, they're part of us. The question is, what do we do with that legacy? Do we let the darkness win, or do we build on the empathy they showed? Homo Heidelbergensis didn't just survive, they created. They were the first to show signs of what we'd call culture. Their tools like the Excalibur hand axe from Atapuerca